Welcome. This is the meal prep tutorial. I'm basically going to show you how I meal prep all my food. I can do probably about 24 boxes in 2.5 hours, maybe a little bit less. But I thought I'd just show you all how I do it. So first of all, how do I measure all my meals? So I have 4 meat dishes per day. I eat the same foods every day. I normally do that 6 times a week. So what I do is obviously I've got four meat dishes, 2 mince, 2 chicken, times that by 6, that's 24 boxes. And obviously with the chicken and the mince, it's 175 grams of protein, of chicken per meal, and it's exactly the same in the mince. So every day I have 350 grams of chicken and 350 grams of mince. So obviously when it comes down to me getting stuff from the shop, all I can really calculate is I can basically do 350 times by 6, which is, I think is about 2.1 kilos. And then I'll do exactly the same for the mince. So the chicken I buy roughly 2.1, and then the mince I do exactly the same. I might have got that a little bit wrong, but obviously what I've got here, got 2.3, so obviously I've got a spare dish basically, and then with the mince I've got 2.25, so again I've got a little bit spare. But obviously with the spare food, I will just put it in another tub and I'll just eat that as well, because obviously you might as well eat the food that you've bought, right? But with obviously the mince, how I like to cook it is I like to use one of these: beef stock, onions, spinach, and a couple of these as well, maybe about 3, because I've got about 2.2 kilos. So 3 of these, chopped canned tomatoes, obviously, so it creates the flavour. You're not just having dry mince, because there's nothing worse than having fucking dry mince. It's disgusting. It's just a bit boring. With the chicken as well, you'll see me do this, but I normally put 2 of these on there, smother it all together, put some seasoning on before, and then obviously I cook the chicken, and then I normally have it either with the pasta or the broccoli. But obviously with how I measure it, you'll see it at the end. The only thing I measure is the rice, because I have one dish, which is my pre-workout meal, that has 300 grams cooked rice, 100 grams raw. And then I have another dish, which has 150 in, which is 50 grams uncooked. So obviously I can't do that by eye, because obviously it's different measurements. However, for obviously the mince dishes and the chicken dishes, I can do that by eye, because the chicken dishes all both weigh 175 grams, and it's exactly the same with the mince. So as long as obviously I get the rice right, and obviously with the pastas, we've got some pasta here. The pasta is, again, I've only got one pasta dish, so as long as I again have, I think it's 450 grams. As long as I cook 450 grams, I can also do it by eye. Because roughly we're getting, if you use your brain and get it somewhat right, you're going to be having the same protein intake weekly anyway. So it's not going to make loads of a difference. But in that way, I used to always measure it every single meal. It just takes too fucking long. So what I found is obviously just doing it that way. Because if you buy it from the shop and you buy the measurements, you might as well just do it by eye, as it's a lot quicker. And you'll see as well how I cook all my stuff. So again, it speeds up the process, because the last thing is I want you to be doing is spending like 3-4 hours or 3+ hours trying to meal prep, because it's just boring. I hate cooking. Some of you might like it. When it comes down to cooking all this stuff, I hate it. But obviously you've got to do it to build muscle and be organised, right? But yeah, so obviously what I've got to say as well, seasons, is the barbecue. I normally put this in the mince, and I put this in the chicken. And obviously the broccoli goes to the chicken, spinach goes to the mince, onions go to the mince, etc. This is what I normally have. Obviously your meal plan, whether or not if I coach you, is going to be slightly different. Obviously it's going to be up to you to then basically, okay, I've got this amount of rice and this amount of sweet potato, I need to buy this from the shop. But obviously I'm just going to show you how I do it myself, so you've got a better idea. But calculating the measurements, that's up to you. But obviously if you know how the quickest way to cook it, it definitely does speed up the process. And then once you start getting the routine again of meal prepping, you're doing it every week, soon it will be second nature, soon it'll be easy. But obviously the first time I meal prepped, I was shit. All my food was dry. I didn't really know how to season my food properly. But as you stay more consistent, you pick these things up and you learn over time. Some of you might be really good. Some of you already meal prep. But obviously this is for anyone who wants to know how I do it and how I do it the quickest way possible. You can start doing anything, we preheat the oven. Pretty simple. speed up the process again. While you're obviously seasoning the chicken, you preheat the oven, so then that way, obviously, by the time you season the chicken, you're all done with it, then you can just whack it straight in the oven. So I like to have it, personally, I like to have mine at 200 degrees, which is about here. So the chicken is going to be fucking dirty. When you obviously do the chicken, you season it up, chop canned tomatoes. I'll show you how to do that, but make sure you wash your hands afterwards because it's going to be fucking grim. Oh, there you go. Got some here as well. And then wash. Obviously, if most probably you won't need as much chicken as I do, because obviously I have 6 meals a day, 4 meat dishes. If I coach you, you'll either have 1, 2 or 3, unless you are at a very high level. But obviously this is a lot of chicken, you probably won't need as much as what I do. Right, barbecue seasoning, give that a good fucking slap. Just imagine it's your partner's arse. I don't know if you're single or not, and you're giving it a good slap. You don't have to specifically use barbecue, but I like barbecue, but you can use something else, doesn't bother me. Obviously, as long as it's proper seasoning, and you're not adding in extra calories. Oh, fucking hell, we got a squatter. Honestly, I'd probably only need 1.5 because, as you can see, it's covered most of the chicken. And it's just there really for the flavour and to make it more juicy. There you go. So that's probably, you can have more if you want, but just remember these are what, per 100 grams is what, like 30 calories. So it's going to be another 60 calories. Realistically, there's like 70 calories on top of all of your chicken. But when you calculate it over the amount you cook, it's like 7. For me, it's like less than 7 calories per meal. So it won't really do much. Because I'm a retard, I always put my chicken in this, because that way obviously you can just bang it straight in the oven. But I didn't. I put it on the chopping board, which obviously there's nothing wrong. But now I've just got to put it on here. So bear with me. As well is before you put the chicken in the oven, put kitchen foil over it. It just helps keep the chicken more juicy. Oh, fuck's sake. There you go. So while I let the chicken cook, I normally put the broccoli, I boil the broccoli, because I have so much of it and I find it hard to steam because I cook so much. But obviously, I'd always recommend for you guys to steam your broccoli. That way it keeps all the nutrients. But however, for me, I can't steam it because I have so much. So what I normally do is I just boil it. And obviously, how you steam it and how you boil it, boiling just takes longer. So what I normally do is boil the broccoli, I put that first, and then I do the mince. Also as well, obviously the board I cooked the chicken on is not the same. Do not get your broccoli out and put it on the same board that you were chopping the chicken on. That's how you get food poisoning. So this is a different board. But obviously this is all my broccoli here. I do have a lot of broccoli. Because obviously I've got, well, realistically 12 chicken dishes and I want broccoli on all of them. So obviously I normally buy two big stems or heads, however you want to call it. And I normally have a fair bit because bear in mind this is going to last me for the whole week. So I've got my broccoli here. And I'll put it on one of these ones. As you can tell, the thing is very full. Now the broccoli is in the saucepan. We now boil the water. Yeah, I can put it in the saucepan and then boil the water that way. But obviously if I use the kettle, it speeds up the whole process. So obviously while the broccoli's cooking, while the broccoli's on the frying pan, the saucepan, not frying pan, I'm going to boil this water and then put it on the broccoli And then that way, obviously, it's going to take quicker to heat up rather than me putting cold water in and then boiling it that way. Now the water is boiled, we shall boil the broccoli. It's on, and this should speed up the process. But after we've done this, we also need to boil the pasta. So what we need to do is do exactly the same, fill up the water again and then go boil the pasta. So with the pasta, what I normally do is put the saucepan, I don't know what I'm on about, on the scales. I need 450 grams of pasta for the whole week. That's how I would calculate it. So I would weigh up 450 grams there. But obviously, for someone else, they might not need that much. They might want to do something else. But obviously on my meal plan, I've got to have 450 grams. That lasts me for 6 days. So that's how I would do it. So I get the pasta. There you go, 450 grams weighed. And obviously while this kettle's boiling over here, I will put the saucepan over there, wait for the kettle to boil, pour the water in, and then we'll go chop up the onions for the mince. So now I've got the hot water, pour it in the pasta. That should be about enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over here, so I've got more space here to do the mince. So now obviously we go into the mince dish. Obviously how I would do the mince is I'd always do the onions first, put the onions in, then the mince, I'd cook the mince until they were brown, and then I'd add the chopped canned tomatoes, and then I would add the beef stock, and then I'd add the seasoning. But yeah, the onions will always get done first. Absolute nightmare because they make me cry. I don't know if there's anyone who can help me out, because even I've tried a few things, and even then, I still cry when I cut my onions. And no, I'm not a pussy, I'm cutting onions. But yeah, I'll do the onions first, and then I cut the onions, and then I do the mince. Right, if you don't know how to cut the onions, what we want to do is obviously cut the heads. So cut both the heads, skin them like I've done here. And how I would do it, cut it in half, cut it so it's like this way, do it like that, and then once it's here, chop it like that. Pretty simple. This is how I personally do it. Then you can also do it again. And that way it's all done. Now the onions are all cut, we can then put it on the saucepan. Again, low calorie spray. Yeah, I can put loads of oil in it, sunflower oil, or whatever oil. But again, it's just excessive amounts of calories. And especially if you're cutting, you don't want to go over that calorie limit. So use a low calorie spray. Obviously for this, use a lot. Obviously it's a 1 calorie spray, so it wouldn't matter too much. A little bit dark in here, so I thought I'd put the light on. But I like to use my hands when I do this. I've washed my hands, it's fine. But obviously I find if I do it with a fork, it gets a bit messy. It goes in, I miss half the saucepan. So I just like using my hand and put it in that way. Completely forgot to turn the fucking frying pan on. Frying pan, saucepan, come on mate. So I completely forgot about the rice. Obviously I have a rice cooker. So this makes my life a lot easier, but if you don't have a rice cooker, you can just use, again, another saucepan. But obviously with my rice, I need about 1 kilo of rice per week. I would have more if I was bulking, but I'm currently cutting, so I only need 1 kilo. So how I would do it, again, let's take this out, put it over here, push this back. Ran out of jasmine rice, so I got this as well, just for spare. Again, and I shall do this until I get up to 1 kilo. Obviously with the rice, you kind of want it, so you want 1 cup rice, 2 cups water. But obviously I do it by eye. I also like my rice a bit wet. It makes it easier to eat, especially if I put it in the freezer and take it out. But obviously with the rice, you should always do 1 cup rice, 2 cups water, and that way it's still obviously fluffy and it still has that nice taste. But for me, I just do it by eye, but I roughly know what double the water this is. So obviously if you was going to do it, I'd recommend doing it that way. Right, once you've done that, you've most probably been cooking for a good amount of time. So the chicken that we put in the start is potentially cooked. I do not know until I take the chicken out. So I'm going to take the chicken out, then obviously I'm going to see the inside of it and see if it's fully cooked. If it isn't, we put it back in. If it is cool, we let it cool down. Oof, jeez. The chicken is cooked, but I'm just going to be sure, and I'm going to put it in for another 10 minutes. Because the last thing you want is to cook a load of chicken and it's not cooked. Because not only have you wasted a week's worth of chicken, you also have food poisoning. So, so now we put the mince in. The onions are basically cooked. There's one. There's two. And there is three. So what I normally do now is I just mash the mince all together and let it go. Obviously now it's red, but you kind of want it to go into like a brown or a dark brown colour, so that way it's basically cooked. So I've been browning the mince, and while I've been browning the mince, the pasta is done and the broccoli is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically stop cooking the broccoli, stop cooking the pasta, fill the pan up with cold water so it doesn't go stale, and then while obviously that's cooling down, I then will get all the meal prep boxes out and I'll lay it out all on my table so it's all ready for me to basically pour into it. So what I'm doing now is I've got the boxes prepped over there. I'm going to drain the pasta because the mince is still cooking, and then once that's done, I'm going to pour the pasta into the pots. Once we've got the boxes prepped, and obviously I've drained the pasta, just before I put the pasta into the boxes, I'm also going to take the chicken out because the chicken's just had another 10-15 minutes and it should be fully cooked now. There it is. Obviously I've spilled too much into one of the pots and I have to dish it out now evenly. And voila! Another quick tip as well. Obviously while other stuff is cooking and you're just standing about waiting for stuff to cook, you can also do washing up while it's cooking, and in that way obviously the washing up afterwards, the whole process of it gets sped up a lot quicker because you would have been doing it while all the other foods were cooking, if that makes sense. So a little quick tip there, do the washing up while other stuff is cooking. So the mince is basically brown. What I now do is I put the chopped canned tomatoes in, then the seasoning, then the beef stock, and then the seasoning. So we'll give this a good stir. And once the tomatoes all settled in, then we put the beef stock in, and then we put the Italian herbs and garlic. With the beef stock, some people like to obviously put it with the hot water and do it that way. But because obviously this has got so much tomatoes in it, you don't really actually need it. Obviously, let's say you're cooking this with a low amount of tomatoes, you might need to obviously boil it with gravy and put the beef stock in and then do it that way. But obviously for me, because I've got so many chopped canned tomatoes in this, it doesn't really matter. And then with the Italian herbs and seasoning, looks great. Perfect. Open this up and we'll do exactly the same with the garlic and granules. And now we let it mix it all together and then we let the mince cook. Last piece, what I need to do is quickly wash my spinach. So I give that a good wash and then I put it into the mince. So the mince is all done, but what I'm going to do now is I've got my rice here. I'm going to weigh out the rice first, and then once that's out of the way, I can basically do everything else by eye. So obviously what my meals are is this meal is chicken and pasta, this meal is just mince, and then this meal is chicken and rice, and then this meal is rice and mince. So obviously the rice and mince is my post-workout meal, so it has more rice, and then obviously the chicken and rice is just an average meal. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the mince first, because they're here, and then I'll do the chicken second. But I can do all this by eye, because I know obviously when I went to the shop, I bought the correct amount that I needed for the whole week, so I don't have to sit there and measure it, obviously unless it's the rice. But obviously for the mince, I know exactly what I need to have, and I can just do it by eye, and that way I'm still hitting my weekly protein intake. So that's all of my mince done. I've got a little bit left in here as well, because I know for a fact I've got 100 grams spare. And then now it's time to do all the chicken. So now all the food is prepped, the chicken's done, the mince is done. We've got the last bit, which is the broccoli, and I put it all in the chicken and pasta. and then the chicken and rice, and that'd be all good. But then obviously the longest bit, in my opinion, is the washing up afterwards. That's just, but obviously if you do the washing up while the other stuff is cooking, it makes your life easier. But this bit I find quite easily. It's just all what the cleaning up I've got to do afterwards. And voila, here's all the meal prep done. So here it is, a closer look. 24 boxes all ticked off. If you like this video, give it a good like. Hopefully it's helped out. Hopefully it's helped some of you guys. If you are stuck with your meal prep, again, my Instagram is Harrison__Burgess. Drop me a message. I'll be more than happy to help you out.